Hello everyone, and welcome back to Grow Leafy with Alethea. This is always an exciting time to start seeds and to be able to share this with you, because I'm starting seeds for my fall garden and I want to get a little boost of a head start of starting the seeds right now. And this weather here where I'm at, zone 6, it gets very viciously hot. And so I just want to make sure that I'm caring for my young seedlings with my hands and then transplanting them. Okay, so that's what this video is going to be about. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to quickly start some seeds for my garden. I had a summer garden and it's been thriving, it's been wonderful, but I can tell it's time to transition and get ready for this fall garden, and I have some time to do that. So let's get started with this video, and I'm going to fill you in on how exactly that you can do this as well if you are interested in starting your fall garden. So if you have not yet checked out my video on fall garden planning, go ahead and do that. I'll add the link right here, because I give some very important tips and strategies that you need to consider or may need to consider to help you if you're thinking about planning for a fall garden. So go back and check that out. So in this video, I'm going to be planting primarily some of my fall seeds, particularly like my cool loving crops. I'm going to plant some lettuce. I'm also going to plant some collards. I'm going to start planting beets and turnips and kohlrabi. But today, what I'm going to be planting are just really things that are okay with being transplanted. So I'm going to start lettuce. I'm actually going to start another round of squash plants as well, summer squash, because I still have some time. Now, when you're thinking about planting your garden for the fall, when we talk about time, particularly I'm talking about the time of when your first frost date is. And remember, that's also in that video where I talk about it, so make sure you go back to the video if you had not had a chance to look at it. But my first frost date is October the 29th. And so basically that gives me roughly 84 days to be able to do this, okay? To be able to grow the plant from seed to harvest. I have about 84 days. Now, that's give or take. It could be that it's longer. It could be 90 days, but it also could be 75. So you really want to consider something that could work within that time frame. And there's a lot of plants that you can plant from 50 to 65 days within that time frame, whatever your date is for you. And so I'm actually going to try and plant another round of summer squash, because even though it's a warm loving plant, I can go ahead and still try and plant it right now. Another thing is cucamelon. I didn't have that great of a harvest. Actually, I really haven't had much of a harvest, but I'm going to go ahead and try that again. The cucamelon. And then another thing I'm going to try again are some sugar snap peas, which actually doesn't mind a little bit of the cool weather. And I'll get into it. You'll see what kind of seeds that I'm planting. But I also want to talk to you about the soil that I'm using. Now, I'm not promoted or anything by this company, but I'm just letting you know what I'm actually using. So I'm actually using Promix, okay? It's an all-purpose mix that you can use for starting seeds. It's pretty fine. It's pretty fine, so starting seeds in it has been actually very good, I've noticed. And what's in it in particular, reading below, sphagnum, peat moss, perlite, ground limestone, and mycorrhizae. Okay, so that's what's in that. And so if I was starting this indoors, which I normally do start my seeds indoors, I actually would prep my soil the day before. I would actually pour hot water on it, and that way it keeps any kind of little eggs or bugs that could have basically hibernated in the soil in the mix, in the actual mix. And because usually you get those gnats on the inside of your house, and I don't like that at all. And so the hot water just kills that right off, any kind of eggs that may be in there, so I don't have any gnats. But anyways, I'm using this outdoors, so I'm not actually starting inside of my house. I'm going to skip that step because, first of all, I don't really have time. I want to get this started, but it's also being started outdoors. So if there's a gnat, I'm not worried about it, but I just don't want the gnats inside. These are the cells that I'm going to be utilizing. They're about 2.5 to 3 inch cells. I'm just going to fill it up with the soil and then moisten the soil after that. And so just watch me in the process. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop a question in the comment, and I would be more than happy to answer. And then what I love about this community, a lot of times other people are reading through comments too, and they may even give you feedback too. So if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask the question, okay? And if I don't know the answer, a lot of times I'll do a little bit of research and get back with you. All right, so let's get the soil in here, or the mix. More like a seed starter mix. Let's get that in here. You get what I mean. And of course, now it starts to get windy. Now I feel like I'm getting soil all over my feet right now because it's windy. And this hasn't been moistened or anything, so it's just blowing around everywhere. What really makes it a lot easier is if you do, even sometimes have like a big, huge tray underneath or something underneath that captures the extra spill of your potting mix. And that way you're not wasting or losing potting mix. But since I decided to do this outside, I was just like, you know what? If it spills over, falls over, it's just going to go into the soil, or I'll end up watering down this driveway area and just let the soil run over into the grass, into the ground. So, but inside I'm very careful because not to get this potty mix everywhere on my floor in my home. I'm just going to keep filling up all of these cells and just trying to loosen up any chunks that may be in there. I want to make sure that there are no chunks in there. You could just pour and dump this into a big container, which I normally do, and then break it all up. But just due to expediting the process, I'm just going to do this by hand in the actual tray cells. So I'll come back in and just kind of refill this spot here, because as you can see, this needs a little bit more. Sorry if it's getting kind of loud, but you know, when you're in a neighborhood, you hear lawnmowers and different things like that. So I hope you can hear me okay. So these have all been filled. What I'm going to do is water it just to get it moistened. And then if I need to add more mix to it, I can do that. I'm just trying to moisten it. And then I'll manually maneuver it with my hand just to make sure that it is really being soaked up as far as the moisture. And then if I need to add more, I can add more to it. And I'm just pushing down to make sure that there's no pockets. And I'm going to show you just closer up so you can kind of see what it is that I'm talking about. You can see where there may be a pocket right here. So this was all completely leveled. But look here, that big space I pushed down and that went down. These ones are still pretty filled to the top, so it got moistured pretty well. And I think it got filled pretty well. Yeah, so I'm gonna add some more to that. I'll do that after. Just gonna go ahead and finish pushing these down. I'm not compacting it to the point where it's like so stiff, but I'm just giving it just a little bit of push and making sure that there are no pockets, because I don't want the seeds to get lost within there. And when I put seeds in here, I always put about two seeds, and then I thin it out after, so that I keep the strongest seed that actually germinated and sprouted. And then that's the one that I keep growing. You always want to give yourselves extra, because it's not always guaranteed that your seeds will germinate. Sometimes you will have problems. That does happen. All right. I think this needs a little bit more water, and then let's see. And there, and this one over here. Now you see me watering on top, but when I'm actually watering day to day or every other day, I water from the bottom so that the water wicks up. I do not water from the top. And partly it's because that the water that's on top, when it's in contact with the sun or with lights, if you're using grow lights, will create algae on the top. And so, you know, I just water from the bottom and just allow the roots and the soil to wick up the moisture to the roots. And that way it also draws the roots down. So the roots are going to want to come down to soak up the moisture that's coming up from the bottom of it. All right. And then if I put too much water in there, it's easy to take these little cells out and then pour it out of these miniature little trays that I have. All right, so I'm going to add some more soil into it and do the exact same thing and then show you what it looks like after I've filled it. I'm going to water again exactly what I just did and just fill the top, and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's completely done. And then our next step will be adding in some seeds. All right, so what I've got laid out, and if you notice, I've got some tags missing, so I had to go ahead and just grab a little sticky label and mark it on the back there. But you want to make sure that you have your things properly labeled, so I'll get some more labels or popsicle sticks, something, and put the marker inside here. But this is just as a reminder. But I have some lettuce, so it's actually a giant blue feather lettuce, leaf lettuce, and then collards, sugar snap peas will go here, scarlet runner, spaghetti squash, cucamelon, zucchini squash, Italian striped zucchini, and let's see, bush beans over here will go here, and kabocha squash. So I'm actually going to set these two aside right here because I actually need to go and get some more seeds for that. But I'm going to go ahead and fill these four up here so that you can actually see what that looks like and how I actually will be putting the seeds into the cells. So let me go ahead and set this aside. I'm going to start with the spaghetti squash in this first row. The spaghetti squash, now it takes 85 days. So with a couple of these plants, I did decide to, you know, try something that would take longer. I know that's kind of counteractive from what I was telling you, but I did that purposefully just in case my grow season allows it. Even if I get to harvest the fruit young, smaller, then at least I get something. So I don't mind doing that at all, but I wouldn't go any longer than those days. So a lot of times my first frost date can go into the, you know, first week in November. But as far as with the spaghetti squash, I am going to do this, even though it's, you know, it's longer than the 84 days. But even if I can get some little spaghetti squash, if you've ever tried the smaller version of little spaghetti squash, they taste just as good. And so I just want to get something, even if it's a little size that I harvest, I will be just happy with that because spaghetti squash is really good and it's very tasty. And I did not get a large harvest in the summer. I only got a few. That's it. And so I really just want to get a few more and continue growing my skills with spaghetti squash. Like I love to tell people, we learn by making mistakes. We learn through this process, and I just want to improve on my process of growing my squash plants. All right, so as you can see, I just, you know, dug my nail in about yay high, just the nail part deep into there because the spaghetti squash seed is fairly large. It's fairly large, and so that's what I did. All right, and then the next one is the cucamelon. Now these are itty bitty 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 little tiny ones. So I mean, all I really need to do is poke just a tiny little hole, not even deep. It's not deep at all. just barely scraping the top because it is very, very tiny. And I'll show you how small the seed is, and you'll see why. So the larger the seed, the little deeper you can go with it. It looks like a sesame seed. It is so tiny. See that? So small. Let me get 2 more. Then I'm going to give you an overview, an overhead view of this as well. All right, and then I'm just going to cover that up just ever so lightly because the seeds are so small. This is not a seed I want to get lodged deep in because I want to be able to make sure that it gets germinated and it sprouts up. So let me give you an overhead view so you can see me fill up another one of these little cell trays. So I'm going for now the Italian stripe zucchini, and I'm just going to use my nail, my finger, just to poke through. So you can see I'm putting 2 in there because I want to have more of a guarantee that I have a good germination rate. And just drop those seeds in there. This way you can get a better view as to how I'm actually doing this. And then cover it up. And that's it. Now these seeds are pretty strong. They will push their way through. They are very strong. When I grow microgreens, it just amazes me how these seeds will push their way through just to get to the top. The next one I'm going to put in is golden summer zucchini squash. And the seeds look pretty much the same. Now this vegetable, when you're harvesting it, it grows and it's a yellow color. However, most recently, I had a 2-toned green yellow squash. And these are the seeds. This is the packet. So it's making me wonder if this is purposefully supposed to be 2-tone. So that was a very interesting one. All the other ones were yellow, but I had one that came out green yellow. And that's it. And your extra seeds, you just pop them back in and then you put it back in a cool, dark place. Next, we're going to do some sugar snap peas. So those of you that have never started from seed, you can see it's a fairly easy process. You just got to get used to the process. Now with these kinds of seeds, especially these larger seeds, you can actually just go ahead and soak them for a few hours. That will help to also speed up the germination. You don't have to, but that is something that you can do. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I bottom water, but in the first day or a few days until I start seeing a little bit of sprouting, I will spray and mist the top of the soil just to ensure that the seed itself is getting the moisture as well. But once I see that seed sprouting through, I'm watering from the bottom. So it's a strategy that's very similar to growing microgreens. With microgreens, you also mist the top, spray the top until it germinates, and then once it germinates, then you bottom water from the bottom, okay? So this next seed I'm gonna put in is Scarlet Runner bean. I did not get a great harvest on the Scarlet Runners this time. So I'm gonna try it again. Look, I only got 4 left. So I'm gonna try this again, and hopefully my experience this time will be better. The plant was beautiful to look at. Now it could be because I'm not, I don't know what happened, but I'm just gonna try it again. That's just kind of how I am. If it doesn't work out, I do it again, and I keep doing it until I figure it out. I want to overcome this. Actually, I'm gonna change my mind. Let me resituate this. Since I only have 2 seeds left, put one here and then the one in this last cell. Such a beautiful seed color. That is my favorite color. That is so pretty. That is so pretty. All right. And then the last one we have will be the lettuce and some collards. Now, the lettuce and the collards will probably be very small. So I'm just poking little tiny holes for it. Let me do that over here as well. Just barely scraping the top of it. Now the lettuce, I'm gonna attach another little video here. Go and watch this video that you see posted up here, because this lettuce is gorgeous. And you can see how I harvest it with some helpers of mine that helped me harvest it, but it was just so beautiful. And my favorite way to eat it is actually cooking it. Now I ate it raw. It was a little bit on the crunchy side, so it's not something that I just want to eat a whole bunch of it just like that. It's just my preference. But I felt like when I cooked it, it was so good. It had such a good texture to it, flavor. So that was my favorite way of eating it, was actually by cooking it. And now these collards. Now I've never grown collards before, but I've had quite a bit of people ask me if I make collards. And I live out here in the South, and I'm thinking maybe it's more of a definitely a Southern thing, where I've seen at a lot of potlucks, dinners, you know, eating out, joining in with friends and family. Collards was a green dish that people had. And so I said, you know what, I need to learn how to make some collards. I'm gonna grow them and then be able to share them as well. And actually, a friend of mine who has a little pet lizard or something like that told me that they need some collards, because that's what their little pet eats. And so I said, you know what, let me get some collards started so I can pass on the little germinated plant, the little young plant, to my dear friend, so that she can feed her little animal pet at home. So that's it. And those are the collards. These are actually going to go on my patio. I'm going to put them on my patio because it is a place that it gets partial sun, and it gets mainly sun towards the day. So I do have to rotate and turn the cells around from day to day, just so that the whole plant is getting sun. So sometimes they do lean, but you know, for me, that is the best place that I have to put it, because I'm starting it outdoors and I'm not putting it all the way outdoors. And that way I'm able to easier manage it, much easier, because it is more accessible to me. All right, and I really want to take a look at it daily and multiple times a day. So I'm gonna keep it closer to my home on the patio where I can have quick access to it and to check on it. And if there's any issues, I can fix it real quickly. This process is always fun to me because it is the start of a new journey every single time. You never know exactly what it's going to look like. You never exactly know how it's going to flourish. It's just such a cool, interesting experience that I truly enjoy. And being able to put my hands in this soil, in this potting mix, and get my hands into it makes it so organic to me, and it makes it just such a memorable experience that I love. And I would just hope that you could experience this as well. So if you've never tried growing from seed, try growing from seed. Now your root vegetables like your potatoes and beets, turnips, carrots, other types of things like that would be best to start directly in the soil, because when it grows, those roots, it grows down into the soil, into the bottom, and those roots, that is where the fruit is growing. So when you pull it out to transplant it, or if you harm that system, you can risk losing that plant and it not thriving through the transplant process, which can shock it. I hope that you've learned something from this video. I hope that it was and is meaningful to your growing experience. And just like, again, if you have any questions or comments you would like to make, engage with the Grow Leafy audience. I appreciate you all. Remember to grow leafy, and I will see you all next time. Bye.